What's up, my lovely Hans family? For day 15 of Hansween, I did a creepy-ass vampire hungry for some delicious blood. And if you didn't know what Hansween is, it's 31 tutorials in the month of October, which means a new tutorial every day. So you should subscribe if you haven't already. Okay? Okay. All product details will be listed down below as usual, as well as like little Halloween tips, and let's get started. Alright, so with the liner, I first sketch out where the open mouth and teeth will be. We want to draw it in a way that will hide our natural lip line. You don't want to break the illusion, though my lip piercing already does that for me a little bit, but whatever. I drew the teeth a little more spaced out than I usually would, and did a couple sharp ones on top and one long fang on bottom. Next step is to glue down our brows. I'm using a glue stick, and what I found works best for me is to layer it down in the direction your hair grows, and as it's drying, smooth everything down with some water on your finger. I do this about 3 times and then press in some powder on top to set. Covering our face now, I'm using some white cream paint, and to cover your brows completely, just layer the color a bit on top and press it right in. You could use some orange correcting concealer on top of the brows if they're really, really dark, but mine are pretty light, so I'm all good. Don't forget your ears and your neck and your body, anywhere that would show through your costume. You don't want to break character. Contouring the face just a bit with a cool tone brown shade, focusing under the cheekbones and the temples. And now, since in the mouth we are creating, it's opening and smiling upwards, the skin would be pulling up as well. Even if you smile right now, you want to darken under where that skin is lifting and a bit over the top to show the smile lines. I did the same exact thing for my Joker last year, if some of you guys are with me for that too, so you can always check that too. Fill the gums in with a light pink body paint, and the teeth get a nice whitish yellow shade. Also do the bottom teeth down low enough so that they're still seen beyond your bottom lip. Add a nice dark red inside the mouth, and you can also use this to shape up the teeth if your lines are just a little shaky. That same red is going to be used right under the lip, since the lip is casting a shadow down onto the gums, and also between each tooth to show the gum line. The mouth was just too smooth for me, so I also made it a bit more jagged and brought it up to my nose. Into my nose, not just to my nose. With some black body paint, just darken all of the above areas, especially focusing again right under that line of skin. Under the rows of teeth would be some darkness, and I always try to use black to make my lip line invisible, or as much as possible at least. Each tooth itself would have a bit of shadow too, so use a brown shade towards the top of each one and towards the side since they do curve inwards. Teeth are generally wet, because you know they're in our mouth, covered in spit, so add a glossy white highlight against the top of the tooth and on one side. Same with the gums, you want to highlight those too. They do pop forward because the root of the tooth goes inside, so it has a nice little curve. I always add some white body paint there and then blend it out. To make your lips look nice and wrinkled, add some brown shadow blending into the curves of the lips that we did create earlier to give that jagged effect. It'll give the appearance that some of the parts of the lips recede inwards. Same with right under the edge of our smile, darken under the top since that bottom lip is lower than the top one. Always keep in mind the high point of a look. Even if you're creating it just from scratch, like we are doing with body paint, imagine it in real life and imagine how the light source would be hitting these features. Bloody up the teeth, because he is a vampire for God's sake, so duh, gotta have some bloody teeth. Keeping with that trend, mess up the skin around the mouth area with a little bit of brown and red shadow. We want to make this look super texture, and you can also do this by adding blood splatter and a little bit of coagulated blood. This kind of blood stays pretty thick and syrupy, so it won't move around too much with pretty light application, even when used with some bigger drips, but just watch how much you use. For the eyeballs, I kept with a very messy and distressed look by using red shadow all over the lid and up over our eyebrows. You can see how I blend with this step, mainly using dabbing motions and stippling instead of swiping around. It gives a really cool kind of muddled up look, instead of all blended and beautiful. That's not what we're about in this vampire. Darken right around the eye and under eye with a little bit of black, still dotting around the color. I wasn't going to do veins since I feel like I do them in so many looks recently, but I wanted to show you a different technique instead of using the sponge technique that I usually do. We're going to draw them out with a little bit of blue body paint, very lightly touch the product to your skin, and lightly pull it in sporadic stringy patterns. Check up on some reference pictures if you're unsure how to do them. Try to keep them very light, and you want to have most of the product off of your brush by the time you lift up at the end of the vein, so that the vein just very softly transitions back into our skin. Cover with some leftover cream paint just so it looks under the skin, and do the same with your chest as well. I also contoured out my collarbones a little bit. The forehead is probably my favorite part of this whole look. I wanted to fit in some special effects for those that like body paint and special effects. Draw out your design. First off, I went with this random whatever the fuck, and layer some 3rd degree up against the edges. I learned from Goldie Starling that you can add cream paint to your 3rd degree to make it whatever color you need, so I added some white and a bit of a foundation shade. You have about 10 or so minutes working time with this, and it is a silicone-based product. Blend the edges with a spatula and use the spatula to carve out any lines that you need to. Fill with blood and darken around the outsides and up against the ridges of the cuts. This will further make it look like the edges are popping forward, like skin would do if it was cut open. With a dry bristle brush, we want to use this to splatter on some more paint. I'm using a mixture of red and brown body paint just to give a really splattered look. And now with more of that coagulated blood, I add some drips going down from our open little cut we got going on. Try to control them as much as possible, and like I said before, you don't want to use too much so that it'll stay in place pretty well. Just don't mess with it because it still will be a little syrupy. Gave some final little vampy nose holds, and bam! Pop in your contacts and choice of costume. I am wearing a tulle black cloak with a huge ass exaggerated hood and some white contacts. I hope you guys liked my little creepy mouth open vampire. You could take any of these elements of the look and make it your own for your own Halloween costume. Thank you guys so much for watching. I truly appreciate it and love all of your support. I can't thank you enough. Use the hashtag Hansween if you do recreate any of the work. I want to see it. As always, I do. I love the fuck out of you guys, and I'll see you tomorrow. Look at motherfucking Robbie DeChristie right now.